Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We're about to take this incredible, microscopic journey straight through the human body. Based on our source material, we're going to unpack the brilliant, invisible mechanics that keep you alive, literally every single second of the day. We'll be exploring your body's essential transport and maintenance systems, looking at how they interact, how they protect you, and honestly, how they power everything you do. So here's our anatomical roadmap for today. We're going to start with the path of a breath, move right into the ingredients of your blood, and then go deep inside the heart's pump. From there, we'll hit the vascular highway, and finally, we'll explore the body's hidden drainage system.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the path of a breath, from air to alveoli.
Right now, I want you to literally take a deep breath in with me. Inhale and exhale. It's crazy to think about, but as we follow that exact inhalation, the flow of respiration is just brilliantly sequenced. Air starts out in the nasal cavity, moves down through the pharynx, and then passes the larynx. From there, it drops right into the trachea, which branches out kind of like a tree into the bronchi, and then the even smaller bronchioles. Finally, it hits the end of the line, these tiny little air sacs called alveoli. It's this perfectly sequenced delivery system, moving air from the outside world deep into the cellular structure of your lungs. Now, your body obviously doesn't just let anything wander down that pathway, right? It has these amazing built-in security systems. First, right at the entrance, we've got the tonsils. And these aren't just annoying bumps in the back of your throat, they're actually frontline lymphoid tissue actively defending against any pathogens trying to hitch a ride in through your nose or mouth. Then, a little further down, you've got the epiglottis. You can think of this like a crucial anatomical trapdoor. Whenever you swallow, the epiglottis actually moves downward to seal off the airway. It physically blocks food from entering the trachea, making absolutely sure your lunch goes to your stomach and not your lungs.
Okay, so the air has safely made it past security and reached those tiny alveolar sacs at the end of the line. But here's a structural problem. Those sacs are incredibly delicate, and moisture creates surface tension that basically wants to snap them shut. Enter a biological miracle called surfactant. Produced directly by your alveolar cells, surfactant is essentially an anti-collapsing soak. It reduces that surface tension, keeping those microscopic alveoli propped open and ready for action. Without it, the lungs would literally collapse in on themselves with every single exhale.
And why is keeping those alveoli open so critical? Well, because that's where the magic happens. Gas exchange between the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries wrapping around them occurs via a process called diffusion. Now, the cool thing here is, it's not active transport, it's not osmosis. Your body doesn't even have to spend energy to make this happen. It's just this seamless, completely passive process of oxygen drifting across the membrane into the blood while carbon dioxide just drifts back out to be exhaled.
Moving right along to Section 2, ingredients of your blood, or as we like to call it, the liquid of life.
Now, what's really interesting about this is if you were to take a vial of blood and spin it down in a centrifuge, separating it by weight, you'd get these really distinct layers. You've got your plasma floating on top and your heavy red blood cells packed all the way at the bottom. But right there in the middle is a fascinating, super thin white layer known as the buffy coat. According to our sources, this incredibly important buffy coat layer is composed exclusively of your white blood cells and your platelets. It's basically the fraction of your blood dedicated purely to your immune response and damage control. And speaking of damage control, the way your blood actually fixes a leak is remarkably complex, but it relies on a few very specific triggers. Specifically, to activate a crucial protein called prothrombin, your body absolutely requires two things: vitamin K and those platelets we just saw hanging out in the buffy coat. If you're missing either one of these components, that whole activation chain halts and the blood just cannot properly clot.
All right, Section 3, inside the heart's pump, the body's engine.
So we've got our highly oxygenated, perfectly balanced blood, but, it isn't going to move itself. Go ahead and place a hand on your chest for a second. Feel that rhythm? That is being strictly regulated by your cardiovascular center way up in your brainstem, specifically the medulla oblongata. To understand how that pump works, let's trace the path of deoxygenated blood, kind of like a subway route. It enters the heart through the massive vena cava, arriving in the right atrium. From there, it passes through the tricuspid valve, and notice that specific location. It's right between the right atrium and the right ventricle. Once in the right ventricle, the heart squeezes, pushing the blood up through the pulmonary valve and out into the pulmonary trunk, sending it off to the lungs to get that fresh oxygen we talked about earlier. So, if you listen to that heartbeat through a stethoscope, you always hear that distinct lub, dub sound, right? Well, I have a question for you. What exactly is making that first deep lub sound echoing in your chest right now?
The answer is actually purely mechanical. It's not the muscle contracting that you're hearing, it's literally doors slamming shut. That lub sound occurs at the exact moment the AV valves, the atrioventricular valves, snap tightly closed to prevent blood from flowing backward, and simultaneously the semilunar valves open up to let the blood rush out. It brilliantly illustrates how the heart relies on these highly synchronized pressure systems and one-way doors to just keep traffic moving in a single direction.
To better understand the pressure created by those pumps, look at the number 120 on the screen here. When you go to the doctor and get your blood pressure checked, a very standard, healthy reading is 120/80. We hear those numbers literally all the time. But what does that top number actually represent in the physical mechanics of your heart?
Well, that 120 represents your systolic pressure. This is measuring the peak, high-pressure moment when your heart's heavy lifters, the ventricles, are actively contracting and forcefully squeezing blood out into your body. It is the absolute maximum force your arteries experience during the entire cardiac cycle.
Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds. This is the vascular highway, arteries and capillaries.
To deal with that intense systolic pressure we just generated, your blood vessels have to be structurally specialized. Your arteries, which carry the blood away from the contracting heart, are built incredibly tough. They possess the thickest layer of smooth muscle, known anatomically as the tunica media, which gives them the sheer strength to withstand those high-pressure blasts. Veins and venules, on the other hand, they're on the return trip. The pressure's way lower by the time the blood gets back there, so they have significantly thinner walls.
Now, right between the arteries and the veins lie the microscopic capillaries. This is where the actual exchange of nutrients happens. And the physics here is this really delicate balancing act. As blood reaches the venous end of a capillary, basically the exit point, the whole dynamic shifts. Our source highlights that at this exact location, osmotic pressure begins to dominate over the hydrostatic or blood pressure. Because osmotic pressure is stronger here, it physically pulls fluid back into the capillary. This is totally essential because it ensures your blood vessels reclaim the fluids they need to keep your overall circulation volume stable.
And that brings us to our final system, Section 5, the hidden drainage system, or the lymphatics.
So, what happens to the tiny bit of fluid that doesn't get pulled back into those capillaries? Well, it enters the lymphatic system. It's so fascinating because unlike the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system does not have a central pump comparable to the heart. It operates in an entirely different way. Lymphatic capillaries are really unique because they are actually closed at one end. They're basically dead-end streets that absorb excess fluid. And because there is no heart pushing the fluid along, lymphatic vessels rely entirely on a series of internal valves to prevent the backflow of lymph as it slowly, passively makes its way back toward your chest.
The crucial point here is this. Your body relies on this passive, valved system to constantly drain excess fluid from your tissues. If this delicate, pumpless system fails, the consequences are immediate. A blockage in your lymphatic drainage directly results in a condition called edema, which you might know as a noticeable, often painful swelling caused by that trapped, undrained fluid building up in the body's tissues.
And wow, that brings our journey full circle. From the surfactant keeping your alveoli open to catch a breath of air, to the systolic pressure of your heart pumping that buffy coat through your body, all the way to the hidden valves of your lymphatic system maintaining your fluid balance. It all leaves us with one incredibly thought-provoking question to ponder. How do these immense, highly complex networks operate so perfectly, so seamlessly, in the background, every single second you are alive? I really hope this visual journey gave you a newfound appreciation for the incredible machinery you carry around with you every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.